know there are so many challenges out there for families to own a home these days, but I firmly believe that your program sets families up for success. So what's rent to own?
Rent to own is an alternative financing option for home buyers who can't get a mortgage through a bank or through a mortgage company.
Why is it so popular today?
Rent to own is growing to be more popular simply because a lot of people are having a hard time getting a mortgage. With where the economy is going, lenders want to see a really high credit score and a high down payment. And a lot of people are simply struggling to have that. So what are their options? They can rent, or they can go into a rent to own and have a shot at getting a mortgage at the end of the rent to own term.
It's very true, actually. The market has changed in such a way now that banks and lenders want to see minimum 5%, whereas before we used to get away with 0% down. Now it's 5%. And if you don't have the credit score to support 5%, they're looking for 10, 15, or 20. And many people just don't have that. So to Rachel's point, rent to own is a great option for them because it takes them out of renting and it gets them an opportunity to get a mortgage down the road.
Why did you write a book about it?
Oh my gosh, it is such a hot topic. It's very trendy right now. So we decided to distill all the information that people wanted to know about what rent to own is in this book. And it became a bestseller on Amazon in the US and Canada in a very short amount of time. So we're really proud of that.
In fact, we've been around for almost 5.5 years. I've met, I would say close to 1,000, maybe more than 1,000 people, answered a lot of questions, and we found that more and more people understood, or as they understood what rent to own was all about, they wanted to know how to succeed at it. There are a lot of books written from the investor side, very few written from the tenant buyer side. So it just made sense to put it down on paper and help more people to succeed at rent to own.
Absolutely, and that's what we're doing.
So what are some of the issues home buyers face today?
So home buyers are facing a tough economy, essentially, where no matter how much they want to save, they don't save enough for the banks. Banks are looking for anywhere from 5 to 10%. Credit's another issue, and the two things sort of work hand in hand. The lower your credit, the more down payments required. The higher your credit, the less down payments required. And that's one of the biggest things that people are facing today is that they want to get into buying a home, but unfortunately banks are shutting the door and saying no. You need to improve your credit or you need a higher down payment, both of which they do not have.
Why did you start your own rent-to-own company?
We wanted to help people make a fresh start after bankruptcy, divorce, illness, or some other tragic setbacks that people didn't plan on. The way we view rent to own is it's an opportunity to help families get into home ownership and make a fresh start for a better future.
Bad things happen to good people. It might sound cliche, and it probably is. But the reality is, just because somebody's had a tough time in their life doesn't mean that they should be sentenced to rent for the rest of their life.
Who can truly benefit from the rent-to-own program that you offer?
Well, our program is geared mostly to people that need a fresh start. So people who have been divorced and maybe their credit has been, or it's taken a bit of a beating. Someone who's self-employed, new to the country. It's not always about bad credit. Sometimes it's about having no credit. So students with student debt might actually be a very good fit as well. What we're looking for is people who are very passionate about home ownership. Desire is extremely important, and it's a very big success factor. And last but not least is credit repair. Credit repair is very important, and they need to be able to repair their credit in a very short period of time.
Can you share an example?
Sure. So just recently we had a couple who came to me, and they had great professions, great income, but their credit, I guess through divorces, both of them had come from a divorce situation, their credit had taken a bit of a beating, and that was something that was holding them back from getting a mortgage. So looking at their situation, they were in a consumer proposal, but certainly that is not a deterrent in a rent-to-own. We figured out very quickly that we could help them out over a 3 to 4 year term, and ultimately they settled on a 4-year deal and have just moved into their home and have started on the path to home ownership.
It seems to me that many potential home buyers don't even know that this exists. What are some of the things that they need to know?
Well, with rent to own, we will actually help them find the right property. There's more to buying a house than just buying a house. They really need to understand what type of property they need to purchase that will essentially go up in value over the lifetime of them owning that property. We will help them make those choices. Plus, we will help them make better choices about their credit and their finances. So we're putting them on a path to a richer future. In essence, we provide a support network that over the course of the 3 or 4 year term, the home buyers will have access to. They get advice on credit repair, they get advice on money, they get advice on how to care for their property. At the end of the day, we're helping them through our network put money back in their own pocket so that they can get further ahead than where they are today.
Kind of like homeowners in training.
Homeowners in training, absolutely.
You've already helped so many people acquire the house that they want to own. So what's the secret to their success in your rent-to-own program?
Well, the biggest success factors would be that they are able to fix their credit. Need to be able to do that within a 2-year period, usually. Secondly, they got to be diligent with their payments. So making their payments on time every month, which will allow them to build up their 10% down payment. And thirdly, they need to find the right property. My experience has shown me that when people are desperate and they're looking for properties in a very quick fashion, they tend to find the wrong properties. And a year later, they hate where they live and they don't want to complete the program. So we will not allow that in our program. We want to make sure that they see all the properties that make sense for them, and then they select the ones that they love the most.
Plus, over the last 5 years, we've really modified our rent-to-own program to be so much more hands-on and home buyer-centric. So we do everything we can to make them successful at the end of the rent-to-own program and give them the necessary support to get there. They're never doing it alone.
So what advice can you give to someone considering rent-to-own?
The first thing that comes to my mind is for people to actually stay away from companies that charge fees. If a home buyer has to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to get into a rent-to-own, they might be setting themselves up to lose money rather than get ahead.
Yeah, from my experience, agreements are extremely important. There should always be 2, usually a lease agreement and an option to purchase. And my best advice on that is to have a lawyer review it so that they can advise you on what's in that agreement, and that way people who are doing a rent-to-own understand everything that's in there. Beyond that, I think due diligence is also very important. Don't get caught up just sort of meeting with the first person who comes along. A lot of companies, reputable companies, have websites, and you can find out all about them long before you actually have to meet with them. Not to mention a phone call also helps to sort of break the ice. And then thirdly, a meeting. I think definitely a face-to-face, because that's where you're going to get a feeling of whether or not you can work with those people. And if you don't get a good feeling, I would certainly suggest that you back away. So another point to consider is to make sure the program actually fits your needs. So if you're not a good saver and you don't think you're going to be able to save up the 10% that probably the banks are going to be looking for, align yourself with a rent-to-own company that's going to help you get there. And finally, the last bit of advice I'll give is to stay away from rent-to-owns that you can get into with no money down. Although very easy to get into, they don't allow you to accumulate through your monthly payments the type of down payment that you're going to require at the end of the program in order to qualify. What's going to happen is that you're going to be required on your own to save up the 5 or 10 or 9 or 8%, whatever it is that you're not making up monthly on your own. And you know, that's hard enough. Saving is a very challenging thing for most people. So it's the worst thing in the world to know that you have to save or come up with this amount when a house is on the line.
And plus, mortgage rules are going to change. What's relevant today is not necessarily going to work 2 or 3 years from now at the end of the rent-to-own term. They might need more money down, plus a lot of people don't even realize that there's closing costs involved. So saving up a down payment is one part of it, but coming up with closing costs is another. And our program allows people to factor both expenses in so that they can actually have enough money to qualify at the end of the term.